Yo buddy, what's going on my fellow gamers? My name is Vaporeon EX and today let's discuss the new Vaporeon card, baby. So if you don't know, Vaporeon's new ability, it allows you to move energy from one of your bench Pokemon to your currently active Pokemon. And keep in mind, the wording on this card is important. You can only take it from one of your bench Pokemon. And we're going to speak on some tips and how to really get the most bang for your buck with this effect. And right now I have a sample deck cooked up with the cards that we currently have in the game, and it's going to send your Blastoise EX style to the moon. So the all-star of this deck is Vaporeon, baby. So with Vaporeon, you typically don't want to have it in the active zone. You want it to sit on the bench and allow it to gather as much energy as possible, or you want it to be out there coaching. So Vaporeon acts as a manager, you know, and it can manipulate energy. So that way, if you have a whole bunch of stockpile of energy on one of your bench Pokemon, you can share that energy with either Lapras, or if you swap into Blastoise, give all that energy to him, and that way they can start dishing out damage and give you those wins that you most definitely need, baby. Now keep in mind, you could run anything in the Lapras slot here. So I'm only running this Lapras card because it's not an EX Pokemon. So you can replace Lapras with Articuno EX, Baby Articuno, one copy of Staryu and Starmie, but whatever you're comfortable with, you can slot that in. I'm just running Lapras because if my Lapras gets knocked out, that's only one prize card my opponent gets, rather than two if it was an EX Pokemon. Now some key tips with this deck is that Vaporeon can only move the energy from one of your bench Pokemon. So that means you can't spread the energy out amongst like 3 of your bench Pokemon, because Vaporeon can only choose from one of them, and then it can give that energy to that active Pokemon. So you have to kind of plan ahead on how you want to distribute your energy and how you want to manage it. Typically, I would probably put all of my energy on the Vaporeon and then just use that as the stockpile. I don't want to spread it out. I want to be able to keep that resource on at least one Pokemon as much as possible, so that way I can easily manipulate it. Another tip is that if you read Vaporeon's effect, it cannot take energy from Pokemon in the active zone and bring it back to the bench. So that means energy can only go up, but it cannot come back down. So a workaround for that is to retreat whatever active Pokemon you have there and bring it back onto the bench, and then Vaporeon can start to manage that energy accordingly. And that's why these XPs are here. It can help offset those energy costs with these high retreat Pokemon, so that way you can have as much energy as possible to utilize, so you can get those beat downs on your opponent, baby. And if you like resource management and, you know, trying to think 2 and 3 steps ahead of your opponent, I really think you're going to find a lot of enjoyment with this Vaporeon deck, because we all know that Pokemon Pocket is largely an RNG game, but with some of these new cards and mechanics that are coming out, yeah, you're gonna have to actually apply some skill here. You're not just gonna simply rely on coin flips. Well, I mean Misty, right? But there's some strategy that has to be applied here. You have to think like, hey, if I put this Pokemon to the active zone, is it going to be able to survive an attack from my opponents? Because if it can't, then all that energy I've invested to it is gone. So I have to be able to think ahead. How can I keep up my survivability? How much energy do I want to invest right now in this turn? How much do I want to bring back? And, you know, being able to plan accordingly. And you may have noticed that I am not running any copies of Sabrina in this deck. And if you know me, I stand by the fact that every deck should be running 2 copies of Sabrina, because it is by far the best card in the game, at least right now. But the reason why I'm not doing that is because I want to have room for those X speeds, because in this deck, you don't want to be wasting your energy. You need to use those XPs in case you need to do those emergency swaps, or if you're in a position in which you can put Blastoise online and he can basically one-shot the rest of your enemy's Pokemon. And at that point, you don't really need Sabrina, because Blastoise is going to destroy them in one attack. So you can swap out into anything you want. It doesn't really matter. It's not giving you that value. You just need to go ahead, pow, just blast through your opponent, and then you'll win the game regardless. So at this point, Sabrina would be a win more card if you ever get your Blastoise EX online. Now, of course, there are going to be times where you could use Sabrina for defensive purposes, but I think just for the sake of consistency, the X speed is what you're really going to be using here for your value, because these Pokemon here, they have some pretty high retreat cost. Lapras has a 2 energy retreat cost. That's kind of expensive when compared to other basic Pokemon, so those XPs will be very helpful. And of course, if you have Vaporeon in the active zone as well, you don't want to burn the energy that it's storing up, so that way it can share it with your other active Pokemon. So that's where that XP really comes into play. And remember, these are just with the cards that have been currently revealed. Once more cards come into the game, this deck list will definitely be updated. But right now, if that Vaporeon card was to drop right now, this is how I would use it with Blastoise, and I think it would see a lot of success. And I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I am so freaking excited for all of these new cards. I can't wait to get my hands on them and start playing and cooking up new strategies and seeing how we can start knocking heads off, you know. I want to say Vaporeon is going to be good, but we shall see come Sunday, right? And I already got all kinds of different ideas on how we use Vaporeon, so stay tuned for that as well. And if you want even more Pokemon content, check out these videos right here on the screen. I have a lot of in-depth Pokemon Pocket content on my channel, and I feel like I bring a lot of hyper energy to my videos as well, and I think you'll enjoy them. And now, with all of that out of the way, get out there and let's go play some freaking video games.